Hello, everyone, and welcome to our LinkedIn Live today, where we are focusing on the science of dreaming. I'm so very excited to welcome our guest, Karen Van Campen, who is currently writing a book on the science of dreaming and exploring how we can use our dreams to better our personal as well as professional lives. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks for chatting with me.
I'm so excited for this conversation. Those joining us live today, as you know, we try to make this as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, any comments, please be sure to put them in the comments box on LinkedIn Live. And also, if you want to say hello, share where you are joining us from, that would be excellent. We also have our moderators. So again, post your questions into the comments function. We are moderating throughout. Karen, when we spoke the first time, and you started talking to me about the science of dreaming, I was just like, we need to talk about this. Like, what does this mean? Does this actually mean something? And you've done a lot of research in this area. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to get right into the questions. Does that sound
Sounds
good?
great. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to start with the first one. Can you start by explaining what workplace stress dreams are and why they're so common? And just as a side note, I had no idea that they were so common. So please, can we start with this?
Sure. So a lot of our dreams are often negative and emotionally charged.
Okay.
And so these are the kind of dreams that play out or explore anxieties related to work. So it could be anxieties about our work experiences, our thoughts, our emotions around work. And the reason why they're so common, dream researchers have found that a lot of our dreams reflect our waking lives. So we spend a huge portion of our waking hours at work or thinking about work. So that's why work dreams are so common.
Okay, so that's interesting. And you're just how you started off there. It's more so negative than positive. And so when we're having kind of positive experiences at work, is it suggesting that we're not likely to dream about that?
Well, I know that our dreams skew more negative than positive. It's not that we don't have positive dreams, and we can have very mundane dreams where we're sitting, typing or doing that kind of thing, but there are a lot of emotionally charged and negative dreams. So then the thing that I find really fascinating is that dreams don't just reflect our waking experiences, but they reflect our thoughts and our emotions around our waking experiences. So let's say we're not just going to dream about what's happening at work, but we're going to dream about how we feel about what's happening at work. And that's what really fascinates me. So it gives us a different perspective on ourselves.
That is interesting. So it's not just about what is happening, what the situation is. Our dreams can kind of articulate how we feel about that maybe in the real world we're not even aware of. Is that correct to assume?
Yes. And also, at work we often have to mask our emotions, or maybe it's not appropriate to show our emotions. So then these might play out in our dreams. We might suppress them, and then they might play out in our dreams later on.
Okay, fascinating. I'm going to come back to that, but I do want to get to my next question. And again, those joining today, if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, feedback, put it into the comments section. We want to hear from you. My next question is this. So you've done quite a bit of research, and your research indicates that work anxiety dreams are very common, as we just discussed. How do these dreams actually then impact productivity and then also well-being at work?
So when we dream, our dream experiences are as real to us as our waking experiences.
Okay.
So let's say that we have a really upsetting dream, a work-related anxiety dream, and it's just a few hours before we go to work. We wake up, we have this in our minds. Maybe it's about a challenging work relationship or something that we're concerned about. Maybe it's our performance at work. And then we go into our work day with this in mind. So it's sort of looking at our waking experiences. It's something we experience during our waking lives. We understand impacts us and our thoughts and emotions. The same can be said about our dream experiences.
So it absolutely does have an impact on productivity.
Yes, but something that's really interesting is that negative and emotionally charged dreams, they're not necessarily a bad thing, because
Okay.
dreams help us, they help us train or prepare for difficult situations. So our brain is in a different mindset. We're in a different mode when we're dreaming. So it's free from our cognitive control. So we might be playing out different situations. We might be doing things in a different way, and that's how we learn from it. and then we take that with us. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
That is so we're doing it without even realizing that we're doing it.
Yes, and there's so many dreams that we don't remember. So, when we wake up, oftentimes we won't remember our dreams.
And so that was going to be a follow-up question that I have is what happens. So, but even if we don't remember those dreams, we're still learning from them, it sounds like.
Yeah, we're still working hard. Like the brain never sleeps. So the brain is always working very, very hard, whether we remember our dreams or not. It also helps us, dream sleep helps us learn, consolidate memories. There's so much going on without us knowing, and it's very busy at work, our dreaming brain.
Okay, I have so many questions about this, but I'm going to stay on task here. And again, those joining, if you have questions, pop them into the comments function. We are moderating our discussion today. Let's get into women's work anxieties and their dreams. What happens when we try to suppress our anxieties?
So this is really interesting. So I found that in our waking as well as our dreaming lives, so the act of suppression, by actually just trying to suppress a thought, makes it pop back into our minds. So this happens during the day, but it also happens in our dreams. So researchers did a study and they found that this does happen in our dreams as well. And it's not just emotionally charged memories. It actually happens for neutral thoughts, sorry. So if we're dreaming about something, if we're trying to suppress a thought, it doesn't matter if it's neutral or if it's emotionally charged. It's the actual act of suppression that makes it pop back into our minds during the day. And then it also happens in our dreams. And it reminds me of if you get a song stuck in your head, yes, and you try really, really hard to get it out of your mind, it just keeps popping back. That's what I kept thinking about when I learned that.
So then should we start trying to suppress our, like the positive ones so that those keep popping up in our minds? Or is it that, and I get it, it's the more
That's interesting, actually. Right? And then, yeah, try and suppress the positive and then maybe they'll play out.
Right? And maybe that's what keeps popping up in our minds, because I get it. The more you try not to think about something, the more that you are thinking about it. And what if we reframe that? Because I mean, we talk about, gratitude journals, we talk about writing down things that we're grateful for, all of these pieces, and those are good reminders. That might be a different way of looking at it. I think we need to do some research on that. I think that's fascinating.
Me too. That's really interesting.
So what I'm gathering from you is if we're anxious about something, trying to forget about it doesn't really help because it keeps popping up. And then, to be honest, Karen, I then start thinking about, the power of meditation. And I'm the first to admit I don't meditate right now. It is something that I have done research on. I do understand the benefits of, but isn't that piece about meditation to be present and not think about the anxieties?
Yeah, so they've actually, there's new research and they found that it's not just our stresses and our anxieties that are reflected in our dreams. Our well-being is also reflected in our dreams. So if we have positive, high levels of well-being, specifically peace of mind, so balance and harmony, if we have that in our waking life, researchers have found that it can lead to positive dreams. So it's another reason why, to work on mindfulness, meditation, just to get that overall sense of well-being really impacts our dreams.
Okay, how many of us joining right now are kind of trying to analyze very quickly what our past few dreams have been and what they might be telling us in terms of our well-being? I'm doing that. Okay, we're going to build on this in a minute. I want to ask you, in terms of workplace, because we are focused on the workplace, yep, what are some common themes that come up in workplace anxiety dreams? And are there common themes?
So what I've learned is that there's common scenarios like being late for work, unprepared for a presentation, someone's supervisor's not happy with their work product or not happy with them. Common themes are questioning your competency, or maybe if you're pursuing something in your career. And the thing I find really interesting is that it could be a theme that's related to work. But so say it's question your competency, but it could come out as, say, a really typical stress dream is an exam dream. So you could dream like way later than when you were in school. You could dream about not knowing the answers on an exam or being late, but a lot of it has to do with someone testing your competency, is what I learned.
That is interesting. So I might be dreaming about university days, but really it's reflective of what I'm experiencing at the moment,
Yeah,
perhaps.
it could be.
Oh, wow, that is fascinating. And that does make sense. The showing up late to a meeting or showing up late to an important appointment for work, that could
Yeah.
cause anxiety, and then that shows up in different ways.
Or,
And it, yeah,
oh,
sorry,
sorry.
please.
I've on and off all my life. I've had this one dream of, it's very simple, but it just always, it happens. And it's just, I'm falling. I'm on this scaffolding and then suddenly I'm falling. And I've been told that it's a very common dream and it's feeling of vulnerability or helplessness and it'll pop up at different times. But when I wake up, so if you wake yourself up from an upsetting dream,
Yeah.
I've been told it's like the number one avoidance strategy because you're not getting closure. So if I keep waking up and I don't have a solution to it, like let's say one idea was, let's pretend I'm dreaming of falling, but then I put a mattress underneath me and then I land softly. That's okay. So I'm not waking up and stopping it. So it's also interesting not to avoid
And so
difficult scenarios.
we want to play that out.
Yeah, it could be helpful.
Okay. So I have so many questions, but I also see there are so many questions coming in from our audience, and I want to make sure that we get to those. So, audience, those joining us live, please pop in your comments and your questions. We are going to get to them, I promise. Okay, I'm going to ask one more, and then we're going to get to the audience questions. How important is it having a bedtime routine? And can it actually help us in terms of addressing those workplace stress dreams? As an example, if I know I'm stressed at work, maybe I'm coaching myself to, like, play out that dream. If you're going to dream about a stressful event, like, play that out. Like, do we coach ourselves? Do we have a bedtime routine? What can we do to help address kind of stress anxiety dreams?
So it's really important to have a bedtime routine for sleep and for sleep quality, and that includes dream sleep. So it's really, really important to have things like really simple things, but they're very effective. A regular bedtime routine. You go to bed around the same time, you wake up around the same time, and it's the quality of sleep you're having. So if you're getting up too early, then you could be missing out on that really important long period of REM sleep. That's the when you have the really bizarre and vivid dreams, and REM sleep is very restorative. So it's really important to have a very good sleep routine, as well as avoiding caffeine, alcohol at night because it can interrupt and cause you to awaken during the night. And then in terms of stress dreams, I think it's important. Like the more I learn and the more I read, it just keeps hitting home the need for mindfulness, or however a person finds well-being, peace of mind, in order to fall asleep and be in a calm state. Because they've found that if you're ruminating, that impacts your sleep quality, and then you can carry that emotional tone with you into your dreams and cause stress dreams.
And Karen, you saw me make kind of a face when you said if you wake up early. Everyone who knows me knows I wake up incredibly early, but I also then go to sleep very early as well to
Yeah.
make up that time. And interestingly, it would have been this year that I started tracking my sleep. So I wear this and it tracks my sleep. And I find it fascinating because I can have hours and hours of sleep, but then my recovery isn't as strong as a short amount of sleep. And then when you're sick, I was sharing with you that I hadn't been feeling well last week and I'm just recovering from a cold. That impacts your sleep. There's so many different factors, and that
Yeah.
REM sleep is so important. So thank you for emphasizing that.
And it also, if you're waking up in the night, it gives you so many opportunities to remember your dreams and reflect on your dreams.
Yes.
And one thing I find really helpful, if you do want to look at using or interpreting your dreams or how you can use them, is to keep like a pad and a pen by your bed. Because when you first wake up, it always feels like I'll remember a
Yeah.
bizarre situation or something that's might be impactful, but if you don't write it down right away, then it just disappears. So that's also something you can do.
And so you're encouraging us to absolutely reflect on our dreams versus that was just a dream, move on with your life.
I like to see and it's interesting not just to look at one dream in isolation. I've learned that it's really interesting to look at a series of dreams. So if a certain person keeps popping up in your dreams,
Yeah.
or let's say you're playing out the same work scenario, maybe with different details, but the same theme, for me, it just tells me that I need to pay more attention to something.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I want to get to some of the audience questions. Again, if you're joining us, please pop your questions into the comments function. We're going to try to get to as many as possible in the next 15 minutes. The first question that's come in that I think is also quite fascinating. Any research on how our hormones impact the quality of our dreams?
No, I do not have research on that. I'm actually very interested in looking into that. So, what I can say I'm in the middle of my research. So, what I'm going to be doing is I'm sharing my research as I go along the way, and I'm sharing it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so, if you want to follow me, then I'm going to be looking at different questions, and I love getting questions that I don't have the answers to, because then I can look into them. But I know some different things that are happening in women's dreams at different points in their lives, but I can't say for certain connecting that to the hormones.
But what a great question. And
Yes, it's a
that
really good question.
That would be fascinating. And I know our team is going to post where people can find you on Instagram into the comment section. So we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, let's go. Actually, let me ask a question. Let's say you're going through something personally, and let's say it's stressful. Can that show up in your dreams as a professional stressor, or the other way around? Let's say you're going through something stressful professionally, but it shows up in your dreams personally.
Oh, yep. So you could take the theme, the theme of, if it's vulnerability or helplessness or anything, and it can play out in different ways. Like, the thing I find so interesting is that while we may have common themes that we explore, are the details and the way in which we explore it is so personal. So we could take something that's happening in our personal life, say it happened during the day, and then we could try and play it out that night in our dreams, and maybe it'll come out in a personal way or maybe in a professional way. Because I just think it's so interesting to think of the dreaming brain in this different mode. So you've got you're not being distracted, you're not avoiding thoughts, you're not avoiding difficult emotions or thoughts. And then the dreaming brain is much more free from this waking cognitive control, and it can explore it in so many different ways.
I love how you've just framed that, right? Looking at the dreaming brain in a different mode. And even I remember, I actually don't remember where I had learned this from, but it's, if you're trying to solve a problem, think about that at night and let your brain kind of help you do the work, right? Because it kind of makes sense in terms of what you just said, where your brain is free to feel what it needs to feel or think what it needs to think. But then I guess the trick is remembering it all when you wake up.
So that's it. And that's one of the things, that how we can use our dreams to better our personal and professional lives. So one of the things is dreams help us. It's one idea is that dreams help us with problem solving. So trying out these new perspectives, trying out these new scenarios, testing things out in different ways, it really helps us problem solve. And then another way we can use dreams is if we are learning something new, a new skill or new information, that the saying really is true to sleep on it, because if you have a really good sleep, then it helps consolidate memories, it boosts learning. There's so many ways that sleep and dreams are integral.
Well, I'm a very impulsive person, so that is very good advice. That idea of, now I'm going to look at the idea of sleeping on it in a very different way. And another question, though, is, we talk about sleep and having a very good sleep. Is it better to have kind of 6 hours consecutive versus 8 hours waking up throughout the night? Maybe you have a little one at home. Maybe there's anxiety. What is kind of the best sleep?
So the best sleep is as you said, to have that long, because we go through the sleep cycle 5 to 6 times in the night. So if you have REM every 60 to 90 minutes, it's really good to have that long stretch. And anyone who has to wake up many times during the night for all different reasons, that the frequent awakenings really impacts your sleep. And the fragments, like, it's very fragmented. So it's not as restorative or restful. It might not be.
So let's build on this. I've got some great questions coming in from the audience. Do you recommend devices like Fitbits or Aura Rings to track sleep quality? Would these give you good feedback to adjust your routines?
So I've heard that some of the sleep tracking devices are very helpful. They
Okay.
don't have live sleep staging. So it'll be a summary though. So
Yeah.
you're given a summary of your sleep cycle for that night. So it's not like as in you are in a sleep lab or you use certain devices actually do live sleep staging. So those are very, very effective.
Yeah.
But I think it gives you what I understand is that it gives you a pretty good summary of your sleep.
And it's actually quite fascinating. So I just shared that I do that. And it's
Yeah.
like the nights I think I got a really good sleep, it's questionable. And then the nights where it's like I may have slept 6 hours, but it was consecutive, my recovery is a lot better. So I like the way that you framed it. It's a good summary. It's not the be all end all, but it does provide insight. I think that's a great way to frame that. Next question. What do you know about blue light blocking glasses and the influence on dreams?
So I do know that you should not be looking at screens before you go to sleep. So that is a really big, so anything that's going to engage and stimulate you before you go to sleep, you should not be doing. So I've never used blue light blocking glasses, but I don't look at, it's difficult, especially today. Like there's so many screens, so much information coming in through screens. But it does impact your sleep is what I've been told. So you shouldn't be doing it before you go to sleep. You shouldn't be looking at screens before sleep.
It kind of connects back to what we were talking about, maybe establishing that bedtime routine, which does not include the screens, and giving yourself that buffer time. I know I've heard in the past that 1 hour is a good mark. And even if you want to build on that, not having your phone in the same room as where you sleep
Yes,
can be impactful as well.
that's actually a really big thing to have. Almost like a sleep sanctuary. So you have a place in which you're disengaged from your computer, your phone, all those different things. And it could be the screen. Like it's obviously the screen is impactful, but I also think, and it engages your brain, but also it's whatever you're thinking about. So if it's work and you're looking at a work email, and maybe that makes you start thinking about things, it could be even positive or negative. You're not sure. Then you start ruminating and thinking about something just before you go to sleep.
That makes sense. And if you're woken up kind of in the middle of the night and you've got a thought or there's something that's just kind of standing out to you, my
Yeah,
assumption is we want to take note of that even before we go back to sleep.
it's exactly. And what I've heard is that it's really helpful. So say you're working through something, it's something at work that it's a puzzle that you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
A really good idea, and I actually do this sometimes if I'm writing and trying to figure something out. I keep a paper and a pen, and if I wake up or if I can't fall asleep, I actually get up, turn on my light, write down the idea, and it's almost as if I'm relieving myself of that problem, and then I find it's easier to fall asleep.
Brilliant. Thank you. All right. Next question. And we've got a few more coming in. How can we use lucid dreams to improve our self-esteem and work experience?
Lucid dreaming is fascinating. So it is the ability to control your dream
Ah,
from within, to actually say to yourself, so it's the first step is to say, if you're in a dream and you say, this is kind of bizarre or strange, I think this is a dream. That's the awareness. And then
okay.
building on that awareness to say, actually, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go and do something else. So a really common one is a lot of people, when they realize that they're dreaming and they realize they can do whatever their imagination allows, they usually go outside and try and fly. But if you want to, you can use it for so many different things, lucid dreaming. So you could use it for professional development, personal development, creativity. So you can explore, and it's whatever your imagination allows. So you can try out different things and meet different people and change scenarios. And you're really like the director and the screenwriter of your dream, and and the protagonist. And then you're just working it all out. It's really interesting.
That I don't think I've ever done that. I think that's fascinating. How does one get there is a question, but we can talk about that in a moment because what you've just said, you're the conductor. You get to decide what happens in the dream. And then my question becomes, then how does that play out? And it's so very fascinating. I feel like we could do an entire LinkedIn Live on just that.
It's
Let
really
me
interesting.
Let me get to this next question. I very rarely fully remember my dreams, but the emotion of them will wake up with me. Is there any way to tap into the memory of them to better analyze?
So again, a really good way is to, when you first wake up, to I've been told, even just lie in bed, keep your eyes closed, and try and recall what your dream was, and keep it in your mind long enough so that you can write it down. So as an example, while I'm writing this book and I'm using different my own dreams to reflect on them and how we can use them, so I just try and lie there and I think about them to keep it in your mind, and as well the emotions attached to them, and think about, and then you can explore them, the emotions that maybe have popped up.
It,
It's all about the recall, because if you've got to be able to hold on to the dream and remember it in order to interpret it and use it.
but it goes back to what you started talking about, where most of those dreams aren't so great. And some of us don't want to hold on to that. We want to forget about it versus, okay, what is this trying to tell me? Because sometimes we don't want to face that head on, right? So
Yeah,
it's managing.
exactly. And the thing that I always think about is it's actually helpful. It's
Mhm.
helpful to play out those difficult scenarios if they're work or professional, and to really work through them, because then in the day, if you're faced with something, you can say to yourself, okay, I've seen this before, and maybe I know what to do when you're faced with it.
It's going back to what you just said, looking at that kind of world of dreams in a different mode, right? Just
Yeah.
looking at it in a different mode, that it's helpful, and it's helpful to kind of tap into that. Here's
Yeah.
another question from an audience member. I'm in a career transition point, and I've been having a lot of work dreams lately. I've been curious as to why.
So I heard that, I've read that and spoke to a few dream researchers, that if you're in transition or you're pursuing different things in your career, it can come out as you're being chased in your dreams, or you could be being pursued, or you're pursuing something. So I always think it's important to look at, when you're having life changes, a transition is a great time to say, okay, what's happening in my dreams? And then I'd be interested to go to look at a series of dreams, and not just one dream, because one dream is really interesting, but you get to learn a lot from a series of dreams. So maybe while you're doing this transition, there's something a theme that keeps popping up, or an idea. And that's what I'd be interested in looking into.
And, Karen, maybe your book is going to have an accompanying journal or something that can
It
help
is.
us track that, which I
So
think
we're
is
at the back of the book, actually, I am. So at the back of the book, I'm doing a toolkit. So I'm doing ways
amazing.
that you can use your dreams, and it goes into lucid dreaming, all different types of tools that you can use for your dreams.
Brilliant. See, we're already on the same page. I love it. One last question before we wrap up today. This has been fascinating. What are some other tools and techniques that women can use to tackle workplace anxiety dreams?
So really helpful things are to look at what your dreams are highlighting. What should you pay attention to? What keeps coming up in your mind? Again, coming back to the whole mindfulness piece, to try and have that calm mindset and to deal with things during the day, because it just really tells us, maybe we should be paying more attention to something, so that when we lie down at night, we feel relaxed, and maybe this will impact our dreams in a more positive way.
And I think everything that you've shared with us today, we can apply to our personal lives in addition to our professional lives.
Yes, I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful. Karen, this has been eye-opening. It's been fascinating. I'm already analyzing and thinking through, well, what does this mean? And really what hit home is, looking at dreams in a different mode, right? And it really is the science of dreaming. Please, if you don't follow Karen Van Kampen on LinkedIn, I encourage you to do so. And as Karen mentioned, you can find her on Instagram as well at Science of You and Me. Thank you, everyone, for your incredible questions. Karen, thank you so much for joining us, for all of the insights. We are going to see everyone again on September 9th, 2024 at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And our focus for that LinkedIn Live will be on cybersecurity. It's going to be fascinating. I look forward to seeing you again. I'm Rumeet Billan, CEO of Women of Influence Plus. We hope you enjoyed our session today. See you on September 9th. Until then, please take good care of yourselves and of each other. Karen, thank you once again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.